My father stood up at my sister's baby shower and told everyone I was a disgrace. My mother agreed, and my sister joined them. I smiled. At that moment, with my 3-year-old son cradled in my arms, I promised myself something. I wasn't going to take it anymore. I wasn't going to let them push me to the sidelines and make me feel less than anyone else. I was done. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I didn't even let my hands shake. Instead, I made one quiet decision. And within hours, everything they thought they were safe with started to crumble. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're listening from in the comments. Now, let me tell you why I had to take control of my own life. I'd always tried to be the good daughter, the one who showed up when needed, who did the right thing, who kept her head down and helped everyone else, even when I was struggling myself. I believed that was my role. After all, that's what my family expected, right? But sometimes, when you keep giving and giving, you start to wonder if anyone even notices. Do they see what you're doing? Do they care at all? Or do they just see a convenient, invisible person to use when it suits them? That day, at my sister's baby shower, I realized I'd been playing that role for far too long. Sitting there, watching everyone fawn over her, I felt like the last person in the room who mattered. They were all enamored with Anna. Perfect, golden Anna, the one who'd never made a wrong move in her life. And there I was, just sitting in the corner, holding my son, trying to keep it together. But the comments, the looks, they stung more than I could say. My father, Richard, stood up for a toast. He was drunk, as usual, but this time it was different. This time he looked straight at me and, in front of everyone, announced, "This family doesn't need another failure. You've already shown us all what you're capable of. You're a disgrace." The room froze. I could feel every set of eyes on me, waiting for me to react. And in that moment, I felt the old familiar wave of shame rush over me. For a second, I thought I might break. But then I looked at Marcus, my 3-year-old son, who was holding on to me like I was his whole world, and I realized something. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about him, too. I couldn't let him grow up seeing me treated like this. I couldn't let him learn that this is how we're supposed to accept being treated. But that wasn't the worst part. My mother, Margaret, didn't miss a beat. She followed up with a nasty little comment of her own. "At least my favorite daughter's baby will have a father," she sneered, as though Anna's perfect life was some kind of personal victory. And Anna? She just laughed like I was some kind of joke. Like my struggles, my pain, were just there to entertain her and her guests. I had always been the one who made excuses for them, for my father's bitterness, for my mother's obsession with appearances, for Anna's narcissism. I convinced myself that they didn't mean it, that they just didn't know better. I told myself that I was the problem, not them. But this time, I couldn't pretend anymore. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I felt my face tighten, my hands shaking, but I didn't speak. Instead, I left the room. I went outside with Marcus, breathing in the cold air, trying to steady myself. I thought about all the years I had given them, the countless hours I spent helping with family events, the money I quietly lent when they needed it, the ways I bent over backward to be the daughter they wanted, even when they didn't care about me at all. They never asked what I needed, never bothered to understand that I was struggling. They had always treated me like I was just the extra person in the room, the one they didn't need, but kept around because I was useful in some way. But that day, that was the moment I realized I didn't need them anymore. I could feel the weight of it in my chest. The anger, the humiliation, the quiet ache that had been growing inside me for years. I couldn't take it anymore. That was the day I decided I wasn't going to be the invisible daughter any longer. I looked at Marcus as he slept in my arms, his small hand curled around my finger, and I knew something had to change. I had built a life for us on my own, in ways they never knew. But it wasn't just about proving them wrong anymore. It was about reclaiming my power. It was about showing them that I wasn't someone to be overlooked, someone to be brushed aside. They had no idea what I had built. They had no idea that while they were laughing and judging, I had been working quietly in the background, creating something they could never take from me. They thought they were safe. But they didn't know that the very thing they thought they had over me was the thing I'd already taken control of. But I wasn't going to make a scene. I wasn't going to confront them in front of everyone. No, I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me break down. Instead, I just smiled, a small, tight smile, the kind that says, "I know something you don't." And I walked away. I left that baby shower, leaving them to their perfect little world. But in that moment, I made a promise to myself. The next time they saw me, it was going to be different. They were going to see the real me, the one who didn't need their approval, the one who had learned how to survive on her own, in spite of them. And this time, I wasn't going to let them get away with it. I got in my car, still holding Marcus close, and I made one quiet decision. I wasn't going to be their afterthought anymore. I was going to take back everything they had taken from me, and they wouldn't see it coming. They had no idea what was about to hit them. But I wasn't thinking about revenge. Not yet. All I knew was this: I was done being invisible, and nothing, not even my own family, was going to stop me. I sat there, staring at the screen in front of me, and I could feel the weight of everything shifting. This is the moment I stop them taking Mr. for granted, and it will only take 2 phone calls. That's all it would take. The family who had always looked down on me, the people who thought I was weak because I was a single mother, soon they'd see how wrong they were. Soon they'd understand exactly what I was capable of. They just didn't know it yet. I hadn't planned it like this. I didn't want to destroy them. I didn't want revenge for revenge's sake, but after everything that had happened at my sister's baby shower, I realized something. I was done playing the role of the good daughter, the one who always showed up, always did the right thing, and never got a shred of appreciation for it. For years, I had made excuses for them. My father's harsh words, he didn't mean it. My mother's cutting comments, she was just worried about appearances. Anna's insensitivity, well, that was just Anna. She'd always been the favorite, the one they doted on, and I had just quietly accepted that. After all, why make waves when you can silently keep your distance, right? But after that day, after my father publicly disowned me, and Anna laughed at my pain, I couldn't pretend anymore. They didn't deserve my silence. They didn't deserve my excuses. The next time they saw me, I wanted them to understand who they had been dealing with all this time. The thing they didn't know was that I wasn't some broke, struggling single mother with nothing to offer. No, I had spent years quietly building something they would never see coming. They thought they controlled everything, but what they didn't realize was that I had quietly gained the upper hand. I had been working behind the scenes, helping with their businesses, building my own, and taking care of my son all at the same time. And the moment I decided to stop being sidelined, everything they valued, their reputation, their business, their perfect little world, would crumble. It all started with one phone call. I didn't waste any time. I picked up the phone and dialed Tom's number. Tom had been with me from the start. He knew about my fashion business, the one I had built in silence over the years. He knew the truth. While my family thought I was just a helper, a second-tier player, I had been working day and night to grow something big, something that couldn't be touched. "Tom, I need you to get the legal documents in place," I said, my voice steady, even though my heart was racing. "Make sure everything is locked down for the next 24 hours. We need to freeze everything associated with the family's business. I'm going to take control of it all." I could hear the pause on the other end of the line. Tom had always been the cautious type, but I didn't have time for hesitation. I had made up my mind. "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice low. "This could get ugly." "It already is ugly," I said. "They've pushed me to the edge, Tom. They made me feel like nothing. They humiliated me, and I'm done. I want them to feel the consequences." There was a long silence, and then Tom replied, "All right, I'll take care of it. It'll be done." I hung up the phone, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over me. I had just made the first move. Now, there was no turning back. The next call was to someone who had been with me through it all, someone who knew about the family's business dealings and had quietly helped me build the foundation of my empire without ever knowing they were contributing to the downfall of their own world. My fashion company had always been a passion project for me, something I started to support myself and Marcus. But what they didn't know was that I had quietly become one of the largest shareholders in the company my sister worked for, the very same company that Anna thought she was running. I called my operations manager, someone I trusted implicitly. I need you to pull all of Anna's upcoming campaigns, stop any shipments associated with her line, immediately, and make sure the contracts are voided. I don't want anything to move forward. He didn't ask why. He didn't question me. He just agreed. Consider it done. I'll make sure it's all halted. As I hung up, a small part of me felt a rush of satisfaction. They thought they had me figured out. They thought I was just some broken woman who would never rise above my circumstances. But they had no idea how wrong they were. I had been silently working, silently building something powerful that they would never be able to touch. As the hours passed, I watched the ripple effect start to unfold. First, I received an email from a retail partner, one that had been working closely with Anna's brand. The message was simple. Due to unexpected circumstances, we're placing a hold on any further transactions with your brand until further notice. At first, I didn't let myself feel any triumph. But as I read it over again, I allowed myself a small, knowing smile. This was just the beginning. The real shock came when I learned about the family home. I had always suspected that my parents were deeply in debt, but I had never looked too closely. I didn't want to know. But now, with everything falling into place, I had to know. I did some digging, and what I found made my stomach twist. The house I had grown up in, the one my father was so proud of, was mortgaged to the hilt with a loan that was tied directly to Anna's business. That was the moment when everything changed. I had the power to take it all away. I could call the bank, invoke the clauses in the loan, and within hours the house would be in receivership. My parents would lose everything. I could watch them lose everything they thought they were entitled to, all while sitting in my quiet corner with Marcus beside me. I couldn't do it, though. As angry as I was, as justified as I felt, I couldn't destroy them that completely. I knew what it would do to my parents. The loss of the house, the financial ruin, it would break them. But there was a part of me that wondered if they deserved it. They had treated me like nothing for so long, and now I had the chance to make them feel the same way. I sat there, torn. I could feel the weight of my decision pressing down on me, and the only thing I knew for sure was this. I wasn't going to back down. I wasn't going to let them off easy. They had used me, overlooked me, and pushed me to the brink for too long. And now they would pay. As I sat there, the pieces of my plan coming together, I realized something. I wasn't just doing this for me. I was doing it for Marcus. I was doing it to show him that we didn't need anyone who didn't appreciate us. I was doing it to show him that strength isn't about taking the easy road. It's about standing up for yourself, no matter how hard it gets. By the time I made my second call, I was ready for whatever came next. I had made my decision, and there was no turning back. By the time I saw their first message, I already knew what I had to do. The texts started coming in, one after the other. My phone buzzed continuously as I sat quietly in my living room, holding Marcus close. My family had no idea what was happening. They had no idea the storm they had unwittingly invited, and they certainly had no idea how quickly their world was about to come crashing down. The first text was from Anna. It was a simple, frantic message. "What's going on? My brand's been flagged for some issue. I can't get through to anyone at the agency." I just stared at it for a moment. I could feel the weight of everything I'd set in motion, the chaos that would unfold. And there was a strange satisfaction in knowing it had only just begun. Then came my father's call. I didn't pick up right away. I wasn't ready to hear the desperation in his voice, but I knew it was coming. I could already picture the look on his face, the mixture of panic and confusion that was bound to be there when he realized everything he thought he had under control was slipping through his fingers. A few minutes later, the voicemail came through. "You need to fix this," he said, voice shaky. "Anna's business is crumbling. The press is already starting to catch on. What did you do?" He never did understand how to keep his emotions in check. It was the same pattern with him, control everything, but if anything ever slipped away, he didn't know how to handle it. I sat there for a moment, just staring at the voicemail. The tears I had been holding back for years felt like they were building up inside me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to say everything I'd been bottling up for so long. I wanted to remind him of every little time he'd dismissed me, every cut-down comment, every time I'd helped, only to be treated like I was invisible. But I didn't. I wasn't going to waste my energy on that. Instead, I focused on the calm that had settled over me. They had made their choices, and now they were going to feel the consequences. Slowly, I typed my response to Anna. "Don't worry, you'll be fine. Just make sure you take responsibility for the mess you've made." It felt strange, typing those words. They were so simple, but they were true. Anna had always acted like everything she had was handed to her on a silver platter. She thought her success was hers by right, that I was just the one who silently worked behind the scenes to make sure everything ran smoothly. She had never realized that without me, there would be no success for her to bask in. I'd been there, building the very foundation of her brand without her ever noticing. And now it was crumbling. The next few hours were a whirlwind of missed calls, frantic texts, and the eerie silence of my own life. I watched as my family scrambled to salvage their carefully constructed image as Anna's brand began to fall apart. The contracts I had quietly voided started to take effect. Anna's social media posts began to disappear. Her sponsors started pulling away. The messages from my father grew more desperate, more pleading. He called me again, but I still didn't answer. This time, it wasn't just about business. It was about the family's pride. He was losing control, and I could feel his panic seeping through the screen of my phone. A few hours later, I received a text from Margaret. "This is getting out of hand. The house is at risk. We need to talk." I could feel the tension rise. The house. The one thing that always kept my parents' sense of security in place. The one thing they had never let go of, no matter how much debt they piled up. They had mortgaged it to keep up appearances, but I had learned that the collateral was linked directly to Anna's business. The moment I pulled the strings, everything they had worked so hard to maintain was on the verge of crumbling, and I knew they were terrified of losing it. I thought about it for a moment. My mind raced with conflicting emotions. I could easily call the bank, enact the loan clauses, and force them into bankruptcy. They would lose everything. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't just about the satisfaction of seeing them suffer for everything they had done to me. It was about showing them what it felt like to be overlooked, to be dismissed, to feel like you're constantly fighting for scraps. I took a deep breath and made the decision. I wasn't going to destroy them completely. I wasn't going to take their home. But I was going to make them acknowledge their wrongs. I wanted them to understand the pain they had caused me all these years. I wanted them to know how deeply they had scarred me. I picked up my phone and called my lawyer. "It's time to make the offer," I said. "But I want one thing. I'm not going to take the house from them. But I want a public apology from Anna, from my father, from my mother. They need to admit they were wrong. They need to own up to how they treated me." Tom's voice was steady on the other end of the line. "Are you sure about this? You could press them harder. You could take everything from them." I knew he was right, but something in me didn't want to destroy them completely. I didn't want to take away everything they had, even if they had never given me a fraction of what I deserved. I wanted them to learn a lesson, to understand that they couldn't just brush me aside anymore. Later that evening, I sent a message to my parents. The words were simple. "I'll give you a chance to make this right. If you want your lives back, you'll apologize publicly. Anna will do the same." I want an acknowledgement of everything you've put me through. Only then will I consider moving forward. It wasn't an easy decision, but I felt a sense of power I hadn't known I had before. For the first time in my life, I was in control. They were the ones scrambling now, just like they had made me feel all these years. And that was enough. The next morning, my phone blew up with missed calls, text messages, and voicemails. My father's voice shook as he begged for another chance, promising to make things right. My mother sent a long message, apologizing in the most self-serving way possible, asking if I would reconsider and help them fix things. Anna's message was more frantic, a mix of confusion and fear. "What are you doing? You can't just ruin everything I've worked for." I knew they were desperate, and that was the moment I realized just how much power I had. But even as I read through their messages, I stayed calm. This was my decision. They could beg, they could apologize, but they had to understand that they had hurt me. They had to understand what it felt like to be treated as less than nothing, to be dismissed and humiliated at every turn. I thought about what came next. Could I forgive them? Could I let them back into my life? I didn't know yet. I didn't know if they truly understood the damage they had done. But I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't their afterthought anymore. I had taken back my life, and nothing would ever be the same again. Thanks for listening to the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this.